What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to Not Your Average Meta, an MTG Commander channel dedicated to bringing you decks and commanders you wouldn't normally find in your average meta. This week's video is brought to you by our new channel sponsor, International MTG. If you're looking for competitive pricing on your favorite MTG cards, old and new, be sure to check out the International MTG store and TCG Player, link in the description of this video. This week on Not Your Average Meta, we have our much-anticipated pre-con commander game featuring 4 of the 5 commander decks that were released with the latest MTG set, New Capenna. First, we have Martin the Werewolf Guy playing the new Cabaretti precon being led by Kitt Kanto, Mayhem Diva. This deck looks to go wide and create a ton of citizen tokens and then pump them up in order to overwhelm his opponents for a win. Then we have Gavin making a return to the channel playing his new Obscura precon being led by Tivit, Seller of Secrets. This deck looks to control the board while taking advantage of his commander's ability to let him vote multiple times in order to politic his way to a win. Next, we have Fog Rawback playing his new Riveteer precon being led by Henzie, Toolbox, Torre. This deck looks to use his commander's ability to blitz in high CMC creatures with powerful ETB and death triggers, while also creating card advantage for himself during the process. Finally, we have Justin playing the new Maestros precon being led by Parnesse, the Subtle Brush. This deck looks to cast and copy spells using the new casualty mechanic to double up on enough value to pull out a win. Now the other fighters will step into the Thunderdome and see which deck will come out on top. Turn 1, Gavin plays a Swamp and then casts a Wayfarer's Bauble. Fog draws and plays a tapped Temple of Malady, scrying 1, keeping it on top and passing. Justin draws and plays an Exotic Orchard before paying 1 for a turn 1 Sol Ring and then paying another 2 for Lightning Greaves. Martin draws for turn and then plays a Naya Panorama before paying 1 for his own turn 1 Sol Ring. Gavin draws for turn and then plays a Sky Cloud Expanse before paying 2 for an Arcane Signet. Fog draws and plays a Mountain before passing. Justin draws for turn and then plays a tap for Boding Ruins. He then cycles Ashbarrens to go get a land while passing his turn. Martin draws and plays a Mountain for turn, then pays to sack his Panorama to go get a tap Plains. Gavin draws for turn and then plays an Island. He then pays 2 for an Ink Fathom Witch and pays to crack his Bauble to go get another basic. Fog draws and plays a Twilight Mirus' land for turn. He then pays 1 to cast his own Sol Ring, and he then pays 3 to cast Kadama's Reach, going to get a land to put it into play and a land to put to his hand. Justin draws for turn, then taps out to cast his commander Parnesse before equipping her to Lightning Greaves. Martin draws and plays a Force for turn. He then pays 2 for Intangible Virtue and then another 3 for Scoot Swarm. Gavin draws for turn and plays another Swamp before tapping out to cast his commander Tivit, Seller of Secrets. Tivit triggers when he enters and Gavin votes to get 2 treasures while the rest of the table votes to give him 3 clues. Gavin uses his treasures to crack a clue and draw a card. Fog draws and plays a Force for turn. He then pays 3 for Commander Sphere and another 3 for Painful Truce, losing 3 life and drawing 3 cards. Justin draws for turn and then pays 4 to cast Deep Analysis, drawing 2 cards. Martin draws for turn and plays another Forest, triggering Scoot Swarm, giving himself a 1/1 insect token. He then pays 4 for Master of Ceremonies and goes to combat, swinging his Scoot Swarm at Fog, unprovoked, for 1 damage. Gavin draws for turn and then pays 4 for Whirler Rogue, creating 2 Thopter tokens. He then pays 1 for Currency Converter before paying 2 to crack another clue, drawing a card. Gavin then goes to combat, swinging his commander at Martin for 6 commander damage. On attack, Tivit triggers and Gavin votes to get 2 treasures while the rest of the table give him 3 more clues. He then uses his treasures to crack a clue and draw a card. Fog draws for turn and then plays his own Foreboding Ruins, untapped, revealing a Swamp from his hand. He then pays 3 to cast his commander Henzie, and then another 3 to blitz in Solemn Simulacrum, going to find a land when he enters. Fog then goes to combat and swings a Solemn at Gavin, who blocks with a Thopter token. On his end step, he then sacks his Solemn to the blitz trigger and draws 2 cards. Justin draws and plays an Island for turn before paying 4 for a Chain Reaction. This then wipes the board of all the creatures and he passes his turn. Martin draws return and then taps out to cast his commander, Kitt Kanto, getting a citizen token when she enters the battlefield. Gavin draws return and then plays an untapped Prairie Stream, and then taps out to recast his commander, Tivit. Tivit triggers when he enters, and Gavin votes to get 2 treasures while the rest of the table give him 3 clues. Gavin then cracks his 2 treasures to cast a Fellwar Stone. Fog draws and then plays an untapped Cinderglade for turn. He then pays 3 to cast Protection Racket and then pays 5 more to recast his commander a second time. Fog then pays the Blitzen World Shaper before swinging him at Justin for 3 damage, milling his top 3 cards into his graveyard. World Shaper then dies and Fog draws a card. Justin draws return and plays a Mountain. He then pays 6 for Extravagant Replication and passes his turn. Martin draws return and plays a Sungrass Prairie. He then goes to combat swinging both his creatures at Justin for 5 damage. And then pays 3 to cast Harmonize to draw 3 cards. Gavin draws return and then plays a tap Myriad Landscape. He then pays 5 for Fallen Shinobi and then goes to combat swinging his commander Fog for 6 commander damage. On attack, Tivit triggers and Gavin votes to get 2 treasures while the rest of the table give him 3 more clues. Gavin then pays to crack your treasure and draw a card. On his upkeep, Fog reveals the top card of his library and Justin chooses to pay 0 life. Martin chooses to pay 0 life, and Gavin also chooses to pay 0 life. Fog then exiles all the revealed cards and draws return. He then pays 5 to cast Reign of Riches, creating 2 treasure tokens. Fog then taps out to cast an Artisan of Kozilek, and then cascades because he used a treasure. He then casts Jolene the Plunderer Queen off the Cascade trigger, and also returns Tree Shaker Chimera to play from his Artisan trigger. Fog then goes to combat and swings the Artisan at Gavin, who sacks 2 clues to the Annihilator trigger, and then blocks with his Shinobi. Martin then casts Aura Mutation to take out Justin's enchantment, creating 6 Saproling tokens. Fog then sacks his Artisan and draws a card. Justin draws return and then taps out to cast a Kicked Waste Management, exiling Fog's graveyard, who also remembers to create his Jolene treasures. Justin then creates 3 Rogue tokens and passes. Martin draws return and then plays with Mossfire Valley before going to combat and aggressively swinging all his creatures at Gavin for 17 total damage. Martin then creates a treasure token off the Jolene trigger and then pays 5 for Fell the Mighty, picking his 2/2 token. He then clears the board of all creatures with power greater than 2. On his end step, Gavin pays to crack another treasure and draws a card. Gavin draws on his upkeep and pays to recast Tivit once again. Tivit triggers when he enters the battlefield and Gavin votes to get 2 treasures while the rest of the table gives him 3 clues. On his upkeep, Fog reveals the top card of his library and Justin chooses to pay 0 life, Martin chooses to pay 2 life, and Gavin chooses not to pay 9 life. Fog then exiles the 1 card he revealed and draws for turn. He then plays an Exotic Orchard as his land for turn, and then pays 7 to recast Henzie a 3rd time. Fog then uses the treasure to cast First Responder and cascades into a Terminate, which he then uses to destroy Tivit, paying the extra 3 for the ward. Justin draws return and then pays 3 to cast Hello the Painter before paying 2 and 3 life to flashback Deep Analysis while sacrificing a token to the Casualty trigger. He then draws 4 cards and cracks his Panorama to go get a land. Martin draws return and then plays another mountain. He then goes to combat, aggressively swinging all of his tokens at Gavin again for 14 more damage. Martin then creates another treasure token before paying 4 to cast Rose Room Treasurer. On his instep, Gavin pays to crack his landscape, going to incorrectly get 2 non-matching lands from his library. Gavin draws for turn and plays a Darkwater Catacombs before tapping an ungodly amount of mana to recast Tivit once again. Tivit triggers when he enters, and Gavin votes to get 2 treasures while the rest of the table give him 3 more clues. He then sacks his 3 treasures and casts Drana, Liberator of Malakir, and passes. On his upkeep, Fog reveals the top card of his library, and Justin chooses to not pay 4 life, Martin chooses to pay 0 life, and Gavin chooses to pay 5 life. Fog then exiles 2 of the cards revealed and draws for turn. Fog then pays 3 to cast Weathered Sentinel, and then an additional 3 for Dodgy Jalopy. He then uses the rest of his treasures to help cast Aether Snap, cascading to an Arcane Signet, which he then casts. After which, Aether Snap removes all the counters off the permanents in play and exiles all tokens. Fog then pays 5 to cast Windgrace's Judgment, targeting Justin's Anello, Martin's Intangible Virtue, and Gavin's Drana before passing. Justin draws for turn and then plays the Thriving Moor, picking white as it enters. He then recasts his commander and equips her with the Lightning Greaves. Martin draws for turn and plays a Mountain, before paying to also recast his commander, getting a Citizen token as she enters the battlefield. This then triggers his treasurer, giving him a treasure token. Gavin draws for turn and plays an island, before paying 3 to cast Daddy Daxos and another 3 for an Obscura charm to destroy Fog Sentinels. He then goes to combat, attacking Justin for 6 commander damage. On attack, Tivit triggers and Gavin votes to get 2 treasures while the rest of the table give him 3 more clues. Gavin then pays to crack a clue and draw a card, before casting Oscar, Rubbish Reclaimer for 2, and then turning Fog's commander into a clue. On his upkeep, Fog reveals the top card of his library, and Justin chooses not to pay 6 life, Martin chooses to pay 5 life, and Gavin chooses not to pay 4 life. Fog then exiles 1 card he revealed and draws for turn. He then pays 3 to cast Blasphemous Act, once again wiping the board of all creatures. Fog then pays to sack his commander to draw a card and return him to the command zone. He then draws before paying 4 to cast Migration Path, going to get 2 lands to put in the battlefield. Fog then pays 5 to make the greatest play in the history of Magic.
At the beginning of my instep, each player loses 4 life unless they sacrifice a non-token creature.
What? This game sucks, dude. I hate this shop. I'm tired of coming here. John!
What?
Where's my lands?
What? Go flip a table. Go flip a table. Oh!
Alright, so I'm going to my instep.
And on his instep, each opponent then loses 4 life, hilariously taking Gavin out of the game. Justin draws for turn and plays his own Darkwater Catacombs before casting a Kicked Skyclave Shade and equipping it with the Lightning Greaves. He then gets peer pressured by Martin into attacking Fog with the Shade, who blocks with his Mauler, sending the Shade to his graveyard. Martin draws for turn and then plays a land before paying 3 to cast a Rumor Gatherer. He then pays to recast his commander again, which Justin responds to by casting Mystic Confluence. Justin then counters the spell, bounces Fog's creature back to his hand, and draws a card. On his upkeep, Fog reveals the top card of his library, and Justin chooses to not pay the 2 life, while Martin chooses to pay the 3 life. Fog then exiles the 1 card he revealed and draws for turn. He then pays 4 to shortcut and cast both Farseek and Rampant Growth, going to get 2 lands from his library to put into play tapped. Fog then pays to recast his commander a 4th time from the command zone, and then pays 1 to Blitzen his Bellowing Mauler. He then swings his Mauler Justin for 4 damage. On his instep, each opponent loses 4 life, and he then sacks the Mauler to draw a card. Justin draws for turn and plays another Swamp before recasting his Kick Skyclave Shade from his graveyard. He then pays 3 for Maestros Charm, destroying Fog's commander, and then re-equips the Greaves to his Shade and swings it at Fog for 5 damage. Martin draws a turn and then pays a lot to recast his commander once again, getting a citizen token as she enters play. This then triggers his Gatherer, allowing him to scry 1 and then draw a card. He then swings at Fog for 2 damage and passes. On his upkeep, Fog reveals the top card of his library, and Justin chooses to not pay 6 life, and Martin chooses to not pay 2 life. Fog then puts the cards he revealed into his hand and draws for turn. He then plays a Kessig Wolfrun as his land for turn, and then taps his Commander Sphere to float a red mana, before sacking it to draw a card. Fog then pays enough mana to recast Henzie for a 5th time from the command zone. He then pays 2 for an Evolutionary Leap, and then pays another 2 to blitz in Atali. Fog then pays another 3 to blitz in Woodfall Primus, destroying Martin's Soul Ring as it enters play. He then goes to combat and swings Atali at Justin and Woodfall Primus at Martin. Atali then triggers and each player exiles the top card of their libraries. Neither player blocks and they take their 6 damage. Fog also casts Life of the Party, giving each opponent their own Life of the Party. He then casts Fact or Fiction, revealing the top 5 cards, and chooses Martin to separate them into 2 piles. Fog then chooses one of the piles and sacrifices both Atali and his Woodfall, drawing 2 cards. Woodfall's Persist trigger then goes off and returns him to play, destroying Justin's Soul Ring when he comes back. Justin draws for turn and then pays 6 to cast Hex, destroying all creatures in play, besides his Shade and Martin's Life of the Party and Citizen token. He then pays 4 to cast Carmella before swinging his Shade at Fog for 5 more damage. Gavin draws for Martin and then casts Sylvan Offering for 8, giving both himself and Justin an 8/8 Treefolk token and 8 Elf Warrior tokens. Gavin then goes to combat swinging his Citizen at Fog for 1 damage and his Life of the Party at Justin. Justin then blocks with his Treefolk token and 3 Elf tokens, and Gavin then passes. On his upkeep, Fog reveals the top card of his library and Justin chooses not to pay. He then reveals his next card and Martin chooses to pay 0 life. Fog then exiles the land he revealed and draws for turn. He then plays a command tower for turn before paying 6 for a Warstorm Surge. Fog then pays 6 for Stalking Vengeance, dealing 5 damage to Martin when he enters the battlefield. He then pays an additional 6 to cast Green Warden Marasa, dealing 5 more damage to Martin when he enters the battlefield. Fog then pays to sack the Green Warden to Evolutionary Leap, which triggers Stalking Vengeance, dealing 5 damage to Justin, winning him the game.
Alright, so we have Frog Raw winning with the new Precon Commander. How's it feel to get the win today?
You know, Precon games are always interesting. It's not what I expected to happen, but it's exactly how I drew it up in my head, so I'll take it. A win's a win. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can see more games and decks you wouldn't normally see in your average meta.